morning to you guys that are tuning in. I feel like it has been a good little minute since I have done a daily manner. Life has definitely been busy and it has been a lot of adjusting to new normals for me. As always, it is good to see you guys. But as you guys are coming in, do me a favor, tell God thank you. And tell me at least one thing that you are thankful for on this beautiful, today is Tuesday, this beautiful Tuesday morning. I will say that for me, I am thankful for brand new beginnings, and I'm grateful for a deeper aspect of healing in itself. Also, I want to tell you guys, also, if you're catching this on the replay, please be sure that you guys are hitting that thumbs up button and that you guys are hashtagging replay crew in the comments. It's always a cool thing to actually tune in and to see the notifications of those of you guys saying, hey, I'm a part of the replay crew. And so again, as you guys are coming in, go ahead and tell God thank you and tell us one thing that you are grateful for. As you guys can see, today's daily manna, the title of it is Set the Tone. I truly believe that like these past few weeks for me have been so enlightening on a deeper level, and a part of what God has been dealing with me about is basically the reality that we live. We get to set the tone for it. And so I'm going to turn this around because I did not move my mop. So there we go. I want y'all to see that. But anyway, I feel like the past few days, the past weeks, God has really been dealing with me, especially what's up, Visha, especially today, dealing with me about like the reality that we live, like we set the tone for it, and we set the tone for it in so many different ways, whether you know the reality in certain relationships that you have, the reality in your financial situation, the reality in even just what kind of day that you have. And so this morning when I was praying, like that was the phrase that the Holy Spirit kept uttering to me is set the tone. Even thinking about the deeper level of healing that God has been taking me through my own self. He's also been showing me that healing also is a form of setting the tone for the life or the reality of the life that like we get to live. And so I want to talk a little bit about that and about honestly sometimes the different types of how you can set the tone for your day, as well as some of the discomforts. What's up, Mayani? What's going on, Miss Nicole? It is good. I feel like I've not done YouTube in probably, it feels like it's been forever in a day since I've done a daily manner. It's been a few days. Grateful for healing and freedom and healing. I love it. I love it. I love it. But today with where I've been and just some of the things that have been happening, I've just been, well, let me back up and say this. I feel like the people that are coming in contact with this word are people that battle various things, whether they battle depression, and you guys can give me some fire emojis if I'm in your lane, depression, anxiety, people pleasing, and honestly just oppression in itself. And I know that oppression can be a generalized thing, but I truly believe that the people that God are living here have experienced oppression in some way, shape, or form. I feel like depression oppresses you. I feel like anxiety oppresses you, meaning holds you back. I feel like people pleasing is another form of something that holds us back. And I feel like in this season, like faith looks like breaking free from the things that have set you back. And I feel like every single day is an opportunity for us to choose what reality we're going to live. I used to be that person that I would let depression win. I would let anxiety win. I would just let, overwhelming thoughts just win the day, and it would like totally destroy my day. And until God started to deal with me about like setting the tone for my day. And I'm gonna be real, when you battle those things or when you've been oppressed for so long, sometimes freedom seems like it is so far fetched. Sometimes we feel like, God, I don't even have the strength to, move in the direction or set the tone that you feel you want me to set for my life. And so I feel like in the beginning phases of battling with that, it was really a hard thing for me to set the tone. And I'm gonna say that there are so many different ways. I'm gonna talk about three ways that we can set the tone. The first way that like as I've been breaking free from certain things, and even past tense, as I broke away from certain things, the first thing that God dealt with me about as far as setting the tone was the words that I speak. Whether it's the words that I speak over myself, the words I give life to, the words that I speak over circumstances, the words that I don't speak, And honestly, if I can be for real, that was probably one of the hardest things to do in setting the tone, because a lot of times when you're oppressed, you learn to just shut up and suffer. A lot of times when you are oppressed, you just learn to just shut up and suffer. And so when God begins to deal with you about using the power of your words, okay, when God begins to deal with you about using the power of your words, it seems like an impossible task. It feels like it is the hardest thing to do because we've grown so accustomed to not speaking up or not speaking the right words. And so sometimes I used to feel like, God, I'm gaslighting myself. I used to get mad too. I feel like, let me slow down. When I was in the wilderness and I was battling depression and anxiety very heavily. God would do what I call the Holy Ghost mute, where it felt like I was in a season where I was frustrated with that season. I didn't feel good about any of the circumstances. I had a whole lot of negative things to say about where God had me and what it looked like. And I felt like in that season, God would let me speak anything else but that. And there were so many moments where I looked at God and I'm just like, why aren't you letting me speak how I really feel? Why aren't you letting me say how I used to get so upset with God because it felt like, true story, I used to tell God, I can't never say what I want to say. I don't know if y'all have ever had a moment like that, but I truly felt like that in that season of my life. Like, I can't ever just say what I want to say. Like, are you not letting me say the real things? And what I didn't understand is that in that season, God knew that the pressure of that season was literally crushing me. And what I didn't realize was that Him shutting my mouth was a form of God preserving me. Because whatever you speak on, you give life to. Ooh, 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 ooh. My God, I'm going to say it again. Whatever you speak on, you give life to. And I didn't realize that by God, like, protecting me and muting me, that it really was a form, honestly, it really was a form of God saying, I don't want you to give life to the depression you feel, because emotions fade. This will be something that fades. I don't want, can somebody screenshot that and send it to me? I don't want you to, give life to the anxiety that you feel or the temporary circumstances. And so a lot of times when I didn't have anything nice or productive to say, when I couldn't just muster up the words to speak life, God would straight up mute me, where it would sometimes be my mouth is open and nothing comes out. Well, as I shifted out of that season, I realized that, like, utilizing the power of my words, that it really set the tone for what kind of day I had, what kind of, how my circumstances went, setting the tone. It set the tone for my life in a source, in a sense. And I'm gonna say this: I feel like sometimes we rob ourselves of setting the tone using the power of our speech by saying things like, I'm just keeping it real, or whatever the case may be. And so I feel like in this season of my life, I've been getting more acquainted to just I've been getting more acquainted to just, how can I say it? More acquainted to just, watching the words that I speak, but also making sure that I'm wise in the choice of the words that I speak as well. I hope that that makes sense. And so I feel like that is the first way that, we can get to a place where no matter what life looks like, we can always operate and have an abundance of the fruit of the Spirit, whether that be peace, whether that be joy, or whatever the case may be. I feel like also the second way that we set the tone in just our life, our day, is by also having boundaries. And I don't just mean boundaries with people, but I also mean boundaries within yourself. And I'm going to just say this: if there is anybody that knows you like the back of their hands, it's you. Y'all don't have to talk back to me. I'm gonna say it again. If there is anyone that knows you like the back of their hand, it's you. which means you know that when you allow yourself to do certain things, when you allow your mind to roam a certain way, when you indulge in certain behaviors, when you engage with certain people a certain way, you know how it affects you. And I feel like that is the second most underrated way that like we don't utilize in setting the tone. There are so many moments where like sometimes we allow ourselves to go off the ledge or to go off the deep end because we're not actively assessing ourselves, and we're not really telling ourselves no, we're not setting that boundaries. I feel like for me, this is also a second part of like what God has been dealing with me about, with just getting to the point of telling myself no and forcing myself, instead of imploding, to actually go to God. I feel like there's a greater level of healing that comes from that. But more so, I also feel like apart from healing, it really helps us to operate within the confines of God's perfect will for our lives. It keeps us on track when we stop those internal triggers, and when we stop ourselves from, I'm going to say this, acting in a way that sabotages our spiritual growth and our spiritual progression. Those spiritual, I feel like if we don't do that, it affects the progress that we see, it affects the circumstances that we experience, and it affects life as we know it. And I feel like, today was one of those days where God has just been reminding me of all those things. And I'm gonna say this: I feel like there are certain moments in life where God will allow the devil to trigger you in such a way that forces you to like really sit back and assess if you're going to engage. And I feel like the past few weeks, a lot of things, and God has really been putting me in a state where it's like, listen, you need to. What are you gonna speak? Because when you think about when the devil attacks us, the first thing that we feel, the first effect that we feel, is it makes us either not want to speak life into certain situations, or it makes us want to be reckless or not speak at all. The second thing, buddy, no, what are you doing? The second, he digging, child. The second thing that happens is, apart from like the attacks making us not want to do it, it internally does something to our nervous system, right? And it puts us in a place to where we just have no discipline, and we just let depression have its way. We let the emotional triggers turn into full-blown panic attacks, anxiety, and before you know it, we have fallen off the deep end, and we're expecting for God to just pull us up. Whew. Set the tone for your day. I feel like the third way that we can set the tone for our life is by simply taking our time. Whether that's taking time to give yourself the moment that you need, the break that you need, the breather that you need, taking your time when it comes down to how quickly you do your daily tasks, or, taking your time instead of rushing into everything. I feel like life is one of those things where if you're not careful, it'll have you rushing through your day, rushing through everything, and before you know it, you are beyond distant from God. And today, my mindset has just been on that, like different ways to set the tone. How we can set the tone, not just for our day, but setting the tone for the kind of life that we live in. Getting into a place where we're always operating in the fruit of the spirit, and always is not really the proper term because ain't nobody perfect, but to where we can somewhat. I hope that I'm making sense. Hold on, Capone, what is that on you? Come here. Come here, Capone. Come here. Get up. That's a bug on you. Get up. That's an ant. I had to get it. But that's kind of where I've been today, like set the tone. And so my question for those of y'all that are here is, how have you set the tone for your day today? Or have you set the tone for your day? Have you watched your words, how you speak about your life, how you speak about your emotional state today? Have you taken just those simple moments to just take the breather that you need and take your time going throughout this day? But also, have you been checking yourself, those internal triggers that you feel, or have you just been letting yourself run rampant? And that's really the question that I have for those of you guys that are here, to really just sit and ponder on: how have you taking authority over your day. Set the tone for what kind of day you will have, what kind of life you will have, and even how that or those circumstances will go. And if you say that, T, I haven't really been setting the tone, my advice to you would be, there's never a too late of a time to start setting the tone. It can be this in the middle of the day. And I'm gonna say this, sometimes there are moments, depending on what you're going through and where you are in whatever season of life, sometimes there are moments where you have to reset the tone. I don't know if y'all have ever experienced that. Like, you may say, I woke up and I set the tone, I prayed, I spoke life, I spoke to the mountain, and then midday something happens and you find yourself back struggling with anxiety, back struggling with depression, or whatever the case may be. I feel like life will bring us to those points where the waiting, it ain't even life. Sometimes waiting on God will bring us to those points where it's just kind of like, you know what, Lord, I thought I was good after I prayed. I thought I was good after I did boom, 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 but I'm still struggling. And so I say all of this to say, don't be afraid to reset the tone if you feel like, man, the day started off good and now it's rocky. Set the tone however many times you need to set the tone so that you can ensure that you go throughout your day with peace, with joy, with the presence of God on your, at your dispense. And so that is it for today's day. If it has blessed you, can you do me a favor and just tell God thank you? Absolutely. Setting the tone, the words that you speak, having boundaries with self, but also taking your time. Taking your time. Sometimes you need to take your time. If life is rough, if the circumstance is emotionally taxing, sometimes it takes taking your time to make it through. And so that's it. That's it. That is it. To those of you guys that, if this bless you, tell God thank you. For those of you guys that feel led to sow, you absolutely can sow. Whether you're sowing on the ways to sow are in the description of every single video. If you've not signed up for our July raffle, it's raffle from last month, where we tided it over to the middle of this month. You can sow. You just label this your set the tone seed. Use the seed number is the number 7. You so whatever, whether it's 7 cents, $7, $1.07, whatever you feel like you want to sow, or whatever God puts in your heart. I love y'all. I appreciate all the thumbs ups. I appreciate those of you guys that catch it on the replay, and the hashtag replay crew. We are about to shift over to TikTok though. If you're not following us there, ThoughtsbyT is the name. I love y'all though. I'm rooting for y'all. So till next time, y'all. Peace.